love this part. I mean, I really love this part a lot. But it's also that drum roll of leaving one camera, thought I left two. And you, there's always a chance the SD card failed or the camera failed, but the camera still has power. Crazy. But the SD card either may have loaded right up or failed. And that really, really sucks when you put in this kind of an effort, you know? Hopefully it's gonna work out. Let's see what we got. And he left the readers in the truck. Atta boy. Oh, there's a big one on here for sure. Oh man, there's a real big one on here. Wow. Let's try this. Full storm. Full storm. Hopefully this camera stays on and works. I'm using the GoPro, and I stuck it in a pocket in the bark of a huge fir tree. The tree's about this much around, and the camera's sitting in a little bark shelf. And I can see it's raining and sleeting out from underneath these trees, but I think I'm going to be able to pull this off sitting underneath these trees. Finished up my hike. It's a doozy. I'm feeling it now for sure. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's give it a go, all right? This is titled My Experience, August 1999, San Pedro Volcano, Lake Atitlan, Guatemala. I was traveling around Central America with friends over 9 weeks. When we first arrived at the village of San Pedro, I became ill with the Mexican mudslide and a volcanic stomach. I was as ill as a Bigfoot specialist watching a bunch of your videos. That's probably pretty ill. 4 days after getting better, we climbed San Pedro Volcano. Its summit at 9,000 feet with its base starting at 3,000 feet. We set off, and by the time we got to 6,000 feet, I realized I wasn't recovered enough from my illness to complete the climb, as well as the possibility of being affected by altitude. I said to my friends, "You go on and I will walk back down." They continued, and I started feeling angry at my defeat. I had a rest and became determined to continue to conquer the volcano. I made myself 2 walking poles and slowly made my way up. My thought was, I'll arrive just before sunset and my friends will have already set up camp. It is all good. I simply took my time and immersed myself in the enjoyment of natural jungle sounds around me. After a while, my intuition was telling me I wasn't alone and became a little concerned, since tourists had been robbed in the past. I continued to notice the silence that had descended upon me, but I shrugged it off and continued. I suddenly became aware that with every step I took, I could hear footfalls upon leaves very close to my left. This is about 8,000 feet. It was very steep, and to my left was pristine, super thick jungle. No one could be walking through that. I then thought, could it be a big cat? But no, whatever it was bipedal and it sounded big. I kept on and every now and then stopped, noticing that whatever was following me would stop also, only making one more heavy step in the leaves after my last step. Strangely, I had not allowed fear to overcome me, saying to myself, don't give in to fear, fear is the mind killer. And I had no feelings of dread. I whipped out my machete and started to sing a Jimmy Cliff tune while I walked. Well, they tell me of a pie up in the sky, waiting for me when I die. But when the day you're born and when you die, they never seem to hear even your cry. As soon as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share now, what's mine. And then the harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. Oh, the harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. Well, the oppressors are trying to keep me down, trying to drive me underground. And when they think that they have got the battle won, I say, forgive them, Lord. They know not what they've done. Because as sure as the sun will shine, I'm going to get my share now, what's mine. Then the harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. Oh, the harder they come, the harder they fall, one and all. The footsteps started again, but I just sang louder. And then after a while of singing, the footsteps simply stopped. I successfully arrived at the top. Just before sunset, I was greeted by very surprised friends. I can't remember exactly when the footsteps stopped, but it wasn't until I started listening to your witness testimonies that my memories of this event became clear. I then recalled one verse of the song. I say, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they've done. Is this the verse that stopped whatever it was? I love what you do, Steve, and I know all too well we need more light warriors like yourself. We're all in this world at this time for a reason, and all we have to do is to continue to stay true to each other. You can say my name. Universal Love, Nigel Mulligan, UK, 50 years old. I'm an art teacher who has had to resign because my soul could not allow me to be involved with any organization that experiments on children with gene therapy jabs. It breaks the Nuremberg Code and is a crime against humanity. All I know is there is a light that will not go out, no matter how dark the world becomes, and no darkness can overcome any light. Keep shining bright, Steve. You're a star. Never forget it. You too, my man. P.S. These following links on YouTube could explain where all these beings actually come from and why it's a taboo subject for the elite scumbags. Number 1, androgynous creator, gods, and Edgar Cayce's Lost Civilization, Jimmy Vieira, Origins Conference. Number 2, Edgar Cayce's Vision of Atlantis and Lemuria, Jim Vieira, Megalithomania. Alright, and good for you sticking your guns on the absolute effing atrocity going on today with so-called modern times, right? Bunch of frickin' animals. Anyway, everybody has a bright shining light. Every single person here on this channel does, and more. Let's keep going, because I'm starting to get cold, because I've worked up a bit of a sweat today, and now sitting here and the sun's going down, and I'm starting to feel it. But I can do this. I'm over it. An update from South Louisiana. Steve, a positive story from South Louisiana for once. Don't feel as though you have to read this on your channel, but knock yourself out if you'd like to. If you send it, it gets read. You may not recall, but I'm the guy in South Louisiana who had 3 encounters, the last one being with my young son and the shaking and breaking timbers that left me pretty shook up. Well, fast forward, and I let an entire year go by before I got back out into the woods. I have to say your channel and other stories really had a lot to do with getting me back out there, though. Right on, man. We're still trying to get the oldest son his first year. We're going on a private stretch this time that is less of a swamp, but still a couple thousand acres of timber that's rarely hunted. We made an evening hunt 2 days ago, and sitting there in the blind, the uneasy feeling crept back, and the woodland sounds got dampened. I thought, shit, here we go again. But I really hoped it was just my imagination. In my mind, I said, I know you're here. I'm not a man of violence, but I will protect my family. Let us enjoy this land and find food for my family. We'll only be here a couple of days and then leave you in peace again. A few minutes went by and the woods returned to normal. No luck in the hunt. The next morning, yesterday, we had no such issues, and we had 4 fat does pass through. They grazed for a while we hoped a buck would show, but they began to head towards the thicket, so I gave the oldest the green light to pick one. He never did pull the trigger. He was nervous, and the grass was tall. I took the last and smallest one at that last possible moment, and it was a good day, and the boys are all still beaming with pride from being on a successful hunt. All right. I'm about to head back out with them in a few moments to hunt some more. Wish us luck. The dang full moon we're having is making it a bit tough. Sure is nice to enjoy this again. Attached pictures only for you. Thank you kindly. Keep it going. All right. I love the picture. Love it. Love it. And good for you getting back out there, man. Never quit. Never, ever quit. You're doing the right thing. Just follow your intuition. If it ever feels really bad, right, you feel threatened in any way, especially with those little ones with you, get the hell out of there, no matter what, all right? All right, what's this one? Peanut butter eating Sasquatch. Steve, love the outdoors. I spend as much time as I can when I'm not being medical assistant. I travel all over my state. Michigan has a lot of beautiful scenery. Back in 2013, I'd lost my German Shepherd Lab mixed dog suddenly and was in need of a far north trip to cheer me up. Packed up my car with my tent and gear and little dog, fierce 10-pound Chihuahua. He literally thought he was a Rottweiler, I'm convinced. I think they all do. I ended up in the Upper Peninsula, in the middle of nowhere, at a campsite next to a good-sized river and flowing spring well. The sites were spread out far apart. You couldn't see the one next to you, and I always chose one away from everyone. There was only one other camper there. About 2:30 a.m., I was woken up by my fierce dog, who had been sleeping comfortably outside, my sleeping bag at my feet, trying to literally crawl inside me. He was acting terrified. Then I heard a tree knock, then another, in another direction from the last one, a pause, then another few knocks. My heart was pumping hard, no doubt. Then I started hearing rocks being struck together. I felt like I was surrounded. My heart was pumping now and between my ears so loud I thought my head would burst. All the hairs in my body were erect and I was paralyzed with fear. I thought about trying to look, but I couldn't move. I started to hear garbled noises like something massive had put a jar of peanut butter in its mouth and was trying to talk. Then I heard other ones on different sides of my tent. I guess they were 15 feet away or so from me. That is a shitty ordeal. The noises they were making sounded deep and guttural, with clicking and knocking like tribal people make. And it seemed like they were arguing or something. The entire time my dog was shivering next to me, and I still couldn't move. This went on for at least 5 minutes, and I heard a huge splash in the river, and it finally all stopped. I'm convinced that they were Sasquatch and debating on what to do with me and my dog. I felt like they could have done anything, and I would not have been able to even scream. I'm glad that you have this channel to share my experience. Thank you very much. Heather S., Jackson, Michigan. Heather, thanks for sending that, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's a shitty one. Shitty experience to be all by yourself and have that intimidation happen. Be careful out there. All right, what do we got here? That sucks. That really pisses me off. Somerset County Sasquatch 2015. Hi, Steve. My name's Ken Leons, and you can use my name. I lived and hunted in PA all my life and had black bear encounters, heard some strange noise in the woods, but never saw anything like I did one morning bow hunting in Somerset County. Crazy, I can hear a siren way down the bottom of the valley. I always packed a pistol when I bow hunt, but this morning I did for some reason. It was a dark early moon. All I had was a small headlight to see a mile. Walked through farm fields to the woods. As I got to the woods, I saw two sets of eyes looking at me, just inside the tree line. As I walked closer, I thought, whatever they will be running away soon. But they didn't. I got feet away, and yes, the eyes were still there. I walked right at them. I let out my best mountain lion yell. I had to turn my head to the right, entering the wood line to push some brush out of the way, and they were gone. I heard no noise, saw nothing run away. They were gone as if they had disappeared. This left me feeling freaked out. I hurried to my climber and hiked up the tree as high as I could. I was there a short time and I noticed a set of red eyes down below walking in my direction. I could hear bipedal footsteps, and the eyes were about 6 inches apart, being the size of silver dollars. It was as if their eyes were making its own light. I sat there quiet as if barely breathing, and it stopped about 30 yards from me and looked at me. Then once in a while it would turn its head to one side and then the other. It was pitch black and too scared to turn my light on. Eventually, for what seemed like eternity, it left. Once it was gone and it became daylight, I saw no living creatures at all. which was very unusual for that area. I have no clue what it was, but it was nothing I've ever experienced before and have not since then. Keep up the good work, Steve. I'll keep watching. P.S. One of my theories about the Bigfoot is that the military controls these beings for secret weapons. Why else would they not shoot them when they enter the military bases? Only shot if you're threatened as ordered. You never know. You never know, but unfortunately, the history of these things go back far beyond the history of our military, right? But you never know. Today, you just never know about too much these days. Okay, thanks for sending that in, man. It's a pretty intimidating experience to have to go through. Definitely in the zone here. Lots is going on right around me here. Hello, Steve. I shared a story earlier this year about my husband seeing something move up on the mountaintop above a lake near Mount Index, and you read it. How cool. Here's a quick story for you to share with the people from a few weeks ago. This is another sighting my husband experienced. I was with him this time, too, but once again, I did not see it. Not sure if I'm considered lucky or unlucky. A few weeks ago, northern Washington was experiencing heavy rain and flooding, and we decided to go out and drive on some of our favorite country/forest roads to check out rivers and creeks. Our turnaround point was a lake up in the northern Cascade Mountains, and on the way up, I took a lot of photos of the scenery. On the way back, we were crossing a bridge, and I was looking out the passenger side window when I noticed my husband was heavily focused on something out his driver's side window. Though still paying attention to the road as he was driving, it all happened so quick because as soon as we were past the bridge, the road turned a sharp corner, and while the road still lined the river, the view became blocked and chopped by trees. He said he saw something. It literally looked like Chewbacca standing down on a bank of rocks and sand, getting ready to jump over a narrow arm of the river. I'm not good at explaining this part because I don't know all the specific terminology, so I'll share a photo of the area. Immediately after he told me, we considered turning around to go back and look at the area. Surely the being would have been long gone by now, but we could at least determine if it had been a log or something else instead. We decided not to as it was getting dark and we were ready to get home. This was when I remembered that I had taken a photo of that exact spot on the way out there. I took a look at the photo and there was nothing there that could have looked like a Sasquatch being. This photo does not prove or disprove anything, just gives you all an idea of the location and the view. I'll attach two versions, one with a circle to show where the being was and one without the circle. My husband feels pretty confident about what he saw and I trust him. To the viewers, if anyone has stories of the Snohomish, Whatcom, Clallam, or Skagit areas in northern Washington, please share in the comments. Not that I'm necessarily going out and seeking these beings, but I find it interesting to hear the stories of the areas I'm often in. There's lots there. Lots, especially Skagit. My question to Steve, do you think we are to fear these beings or not? This is one of my biggest questions regarding the Sasquatch. I know people have had ongoing communication and friendships with Sasquatch, and some even call them their teachers. But then I've also heard of the Sasquatch not being good. Maybe it depends completely on the Sasquatch individual. I try not to fear them and rather think of them more as protectors of the forest. But then I listen to stories where people were downright traumatized from their encounter. Sorry for the length of the email. Thank you for using your platform for the greater good and giving a voice to those out there who have been scared to talk about something like this until now. You're awesome. Take care. You can use my name, Ashley. Okay, I'm going to try to share this in front of the GoPro. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I'm going to try to edit this on the GoPro app and see if I can load this during my few days running around here. So let's see if you guys can see this. I don't know if you will or not. That is the picture of the river without the red circle. And well, I'll tell you what, I'll make the video thumbnail. I'll use the thumbnail photo I'll use with the circled photograph version, all right? Thanks for sending that in. What do I think about them being threatening or not? It's like human beings, right? There is how many human, absolutely demented, twisted, ruthless, disgusting human beings are possibly in each community we are in, right? So we know the answer about humans. I'd possibly apply how we feel about humans to these people. It's basically the same thing. You just don't know who is going to be a threat or not, and you have to go with your intuition with each individual. It's the only way to do it, as far as I'm concerned. You know when there's a dark human around. You know when there's a human near you with dark intentions. You can feel it, right? You can see it in their eyes, but more importantly, you can feel it. So I would just go by that. Go by your feelings, your intuition. From what I understand, the so-called dog man beings aren't good, period. I've been convinced of that to date. That's just me. But one thing there is to take note of, you guys, is why are encounters just sightings of these beings? Why does it cause PTSD in human beings? Just from seeing one. We have numerous human beings who have acquired PTSD from seeing lots of dead bodies at work, lots of firefighters I know, lots of first responders, people in the military, obviously seeing their brothers in arms blown up, murdered, killed in front of them, car accidents, people seeing children die. All sorts of nasty scenarios we can come up with causes severe PTSD in humans. Why does just seeing one of these beings create PTSD in humans? Right? I mean, I've seen grizzly bears up close. I've come close to being chewed on by a very large grizzly bear more than a couple times. I've had some very alarming scenes, threatening scenes in the woods, in the forest scenario, but none of that has caused me to have PTSD or anybody else I know have PTSD. Just from seeing an 800-pound grizzly bear right there, possibly have one charge at you, it still didn't make me develop PTSD. So why do humans develop PTSD just from the sight of one of these beings down there looking at you? That's a question that I would like to know the answer to that one, right? And that would probably directly answer the question that you just had about the if these things are good or bad. Well, thank you for sending that in. All right, I am damn near frozen stiff. I'm gonna cut this one short with one more, you guys. Cold, cold, cold. And all hell is coming. My name is Robert Brown. I had a frightening experience with Sasquatch in Pennsylvania. In 1982, my mother alerted us to what she thought was a woman in distress. Upon further investigation, we realized that what we were dealing with was not a woman, but some kind of massive creature that made 25-foot tall pine trees bend over. The screaming could be heard for about a mile out this mountain ridge. This animal was going up and down the ridge for about 20 minutes. I believe now that it must have lost track of a juvenile, for it was not afraid of the chaos and fear it was spreading among us. And just as fast as it showed up, it was gone. The screaming was so loud and scary, my dogs were both tail tucked and shaking uncontrollably. They clearly had no desire to pursue this creature. That's the end of the story. 1982, Pennsylvania. Okay, Robert, you're not the only one, man. There are so many experiences from Pennsylvania, it's almost ridiculous. Dozens of them. All right, how long is this one? Ooh, all right, I'm gonna try one more, and then I'm gonna get my frozen ass off this ground and get out of here. It's titled A Bit About Dogs. First off, Steve, I'd like to say thank you for what you're doing. It's great. I have 6 different encounters myself, but this one I want to share with you and your viewers because it might help or save an animal. We went camping, we were setting up camp, putting up tents, etc. When I noticed that my dog had been gone for a while. Now listen, he had a collar on, but that you couldn't get over the top of his neck, and it was tight enough that it wouldn't slip over his head because he had lost his collar before, and I didn't want to lose his license and his tag and other stuff. It wasn't too tight, but it was tight enough that you couldn't get it over his head. We didn't think much about it because he would always run off while we were doing our stuff, and he would never go far. He'd just go exploring the woods around where we were setting up camp. We're in Lincoln County, Oregon. Let me tell you, there's been some stuff that we've had happen around here. This particular place I had 2, what I would call encounters before. Anyway, about 45 minutes later, he comes back to camp completely coated in mud. And I mean smeared with mud. was packed all around him, and he was scared shitless. When we got back to camp, he did not leave my heel. He wouldn't even leave the area of our campsite. We finally went to bed that night. He slept right next to my sleeping bag, would not move. About 3 a.m., I woke to something or someone, you know what, knocking on a tree about 70 yards from our camp. The knocking was so loud and so fast, it was incredible. And it was so loud. As this was happening, my dog was shaking. He was going to come unscrewed. The reason I'm sharing this email, Steve, is because I know what's out there. I've had my encounters. At this time, my dog got so scared that it really wasn't worth us going there. I've been back several times to the same spot. Sometimes things happen, sometimes they don't. This is several years ago, and that dog unfortunately has passed, but every time I go to 4th of July Creek, I have in the back of my mind this encounter. I fished there several times as a kid, I camped there several times as an adult, but that particular encounter kind of ruined my dog's outdoor adventures. From that day forward, every time they go out in the woods, he had a particular notion to stay close to us. Also, I forgot to mention that when he came back that day, his collar was gone off his neck, and it was a thick collar. The kind that you buy that are very strong. Steve the dog was terrified. I've had other encounters around my county and around this area, and people that will listen are usually people that have had encounters themselves. People that don't know will not listen, and it is an absolute waste of time trying to convince them that these beings are real. Anyway, I hope this email helps. I have some other encounters, but I'm 62 years old, and it's hard for me to do this email stuff. I have a hard time with all this computer shit, but I guess that's what our lives have become. Anyway, thank you for your platform. It's a real pleasure to watch your program on YouTube and know that we all have a nice, safe place to share. Stay safe, respectively. Sam Tuff, Toledo, Oregon. Sam, glad your dog made it. At least he didn't get torn in half, killed. How many times have they done that? Sounds like you held him in a mud puddle just for kicks to intimidate the shit out of him and send him back home. Make sure he didn't venture away from camp again, right? But anyway, frickin' frozen. Time for me to go. We'll see if I can edit this up on the YouTube app or the GoPro app that I downloaded on my phone. So that'd be interesting. And I might do this hike thing again tomorrow. We'll see how bad the weather's going to be, but it's going to get pretty bad. Oh, here we go. I'll give you a little 360 where I am. I am here. And here I go that way.